What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over the reign of X, and we actually pick up with X Factor number 5. Now, with X Factor number 5, it is basically going to show us or tell us that we are going to continue the storyline that took place before X of Swords. Now, remember, X Factor is a team of mutants who go around and try to investigate the murders of mutants across the world. Now, before X of Swords, X Factor was working on a particular case, and this case was them figuring out what happened to Wind Dancer, of course, another mutant who had died but died over in Mojo Verse. Now, when they went into Mojo Verse, they found out that apparently Wind Dancer wanted to die because in Mojo Verse, you do a lot of different things to get the views. And mutants were very popular over in the Mojo Verse. And so, of course, Wind Dancer went there to be like an entertainer. But of course, to get the views, she killed herself. And so right now, X Factor is trying to figure out why. Well, we know why, because she wanted the views. But X Factor do a lot of work before X of Swords to figure out what happened to Wind Dancer. And so getting into X Factor number 5, we actually do pick up with the X Factor team showing a video over to the 5. Now remember, the 5 is basically a group of mutants who have the ability to bring you back to life. Now you have to remember though, that it's not you actually coming back to life. It's more of you getting a clone body made of you and your memories downloaded into that new dead body. Now with all that being said though, the reason why X Factor is showing a video to the 5 is because when X Factor goes out and to investigate a mutant's murder, they have to find proof that the mutant is actually dead and then hand that proof over to the 5 so that they can bring that person back to life, because the 5 does not want to bring someone back to life if the person is still alive, because then you'll have two characters out there at the same time, which of course will cause more problems. Now, of course, they're right now showing their X Factor is showing the 5 the video of Wind Dancer, because the video is showing that Wind Dancer was down to kill herself to get the views. And her producer kept telling her, we can find different ways to keep you alive, but to make it seem like you did die so that you can still get those views. But Wind Dancer wanted to die to get those views. And so, of course, she basically shot herself. Her head exploded, whatever. She killed herself to get those views. But now with the video being proof that Wind Dancer is actually dead, on top of that, getting her body before X of Swords, now the 5 can begin the process of bringing her back to life. The problem is, though, this is kind of the X Factor book telling us what's going to happen now after X of Swords. And what I mean is that, remember, in X of Swords, Rockslide, a mutant, he died in Otherworld. But because he died in Otherworld, and when the 5 tried to bring him back to life, the problem was, though, he came back corrupted. He wasn't his original self. And so that freaked out the 5, and they shut down the Rebirth system. Now, of course, they want to relaunch the Rebirth system, but they're kind of scared to do it because they feel like their system could also be corrupted. And so this is them kind of asking the X Factor team to kind of help out with the idea of relaunching the Rebirth system. Now, we actually do jump forward in time where we actually do pick up with the X Factor team right now at the home of the 5. But the reason why they're there is because of Rachel Summers. Now, remember, Rachel Summers is basically the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey, but from an alternate timeline. Now, with that being said, the reason why we're picking up with Rachel Summers is because she is going to use her psychic abilities as a way to read the mind mind of Rockslide. Now remember, this Rockslide is the corrupted Rockslide, not the one most X-Men fans know of. But of course, they want to know what this Rockslide knows. Now here comes the big problem though, because as soon as she tries to use her powers, she is sent flying back into a wall. Now the reason why, because she said she hit the beginning of his timeline, meaning that when she tried to see his memories, when she tried to go to the very beginning, she was pushed back because she reached the beginning of his timeline that quick. Now, of course, she's going to show X Factor and the Five what she saw in the mind of this corrupted Rockslide. And what Rachel Summers actually tells us is that when it comes to Rockslide in his memories don't go back to when he was a kid or when he was Rockslide or when he was on the X-Men. None of that. His memories actually started when he came out of the rebirth system, the corrupted Rockslide. When he was made, that was when his memories was technically starting from. And so he doesn't have much to remember. On top of that, a lot of brain functions that most people have, he does not have right now. And so right now, the X Factor team kind of has to treat him like he's a toddler. They kind of have to take care of this corrupted Rockslide. And so now we're kind of left to believe that there is a possibility the X-Men may never get the original Rockslide back at all. Now, of course, you didn't have the Five say it's about time to welcome back one of their friends. But of course, you didn't have somebody on the X Factor team wonder if a particular character is going to come inside to join the rest of the characters. And of course, that person is Emma Frost, who's right now standing outside the home of the Five because she's very upset with something. But that actually does lead into the rebirth of Wind Dancer. And so this shows the Five and X Factor that they do not have any more concerns. And the reason why I say that is because now with Wind Dancer being back, that means the Five can relaunch the rebirth system and begin the process of bringing back all the characters who have possibly died over the last few days, weeks, or months. Now, of course, as soon as Wind Dancer begins to come out of her egg and she's brought back to life, you do have Wind Dancer basically go up in the air and fly around because she loves the idea of being able to fly around and having that freedom. Now, of course, you do have X Factor in the Five ask her one particular question. Why did she kill herself? Yes, we know it was for the views, but her producer told her that she had ways out of this where she could still technically die, but still be alive. And so that is the moment you have Wind Dancer say that when it came to Mojoverse and actually Mojo himself, Mojo kept a tight leash on her. And so even though other characters who were in Mojoverse who were trying to help her escape, she couldn't escape. She was stuck there. And that was the big problem. And so she felt like the only way to escape was to kill herself, which she did, which of course it worked out because then the Five was able to bring her back to life. Now we do actually jump over to Emma Frost, and the reason why, because she is confronted by Danny Moonstar. Now, the reason why Emma Frost was standing outside the home of the Five is because she feels like she is responsible for the death of Rockslide. Let me explain. So Emma Frost is actually a teacher. She has been a teacher in X-Men comics throughout the years. And of course, she was the one, I think, who had recruited Rockslide. And so to see Rockslide be dead and not being able to come back to life, it bothers her a lot. It's eating her alive from the inside. And so she feels very bad about the idea that Rockslide may never come back. And the Rockslide they have right now is corrupted. He's not the Rockslide that she remembered, the Rockslide that she actually cared for. And this is kind of Marvel kind of reminding us that Emma Frost does have that sensitive side of her, which of course we have seen so many times in the Dawn of X era of X-Men comics as well, especially when Kitty Pryde had died. But yeah, is Emma Frost just being upset with the idea that she lost one of her students? Now, of course, the book begins to wind down where you actually have the X Factor team kind of just relaxing. They're taking a break. They were able to close the case on Wind Dancer. They were able to relaunch the rebirth process to bring mutants back who had possibly died over the last couple of days, weeks, months, whatever. But of course, you do see small things happening, like, of course, Daken is about to date Aurora, the sister to Northstar, the leader of the X Factor team. But either way, though, while you have the X Factor team kind of relaxing, taking a break, just spending time with one another, that is the moment they see that someone has crash landed on the island. And of course, the person who had crash landed is Siren. Now, Siren is the daughter of Banshee. And the question is now, what happened to her? Because when she crash landed, it's not like she just knocked out and they're like, okay, whatever, wake her up. No, she's dead. And the question is now, what happened to her? And so now X Factor has another case that they must deal with to figure out what happened to Siren. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.